Judge Edward Chen adjusted his robe as he settled into his seat on the federal bench, his expression already betraying boredom. The courtroom, tucked away in a sleek building downtown, had the usual hum of procedural banality. But something felt different today. The gallery was full of journalists scribbling notes, aides whispering, a few public policy students clutching notebooks. They hadn't gathered to watch a dry procedural dispute. They came for the show. The case in question seemed routine on its fascia, another challenge to federal overreach, this time involving a controversial new rule by the Environmental Protection Agency. Representing the plaintiff was Pam Bondi, former Florida Attorney General, now a litigator known for turning seemingly minor lawsuits into national flashpoints. She approached the lectern confidently, carrying a single leather-bound binder under one arm. Judge Chen looked over his glasses with a thin smile. "Miss Bondi," he said, his voice laced with mock civility, "I must admit, when I saw your name on the docket, I knew today wouldn't be dull." The courtroom chuckled. Bondi didn't. "With respect, Your Honor," she replied, placing the binder down, "I hope the facts speak louder than your expectations." "Let's hope they're more grounded in law this time," Chen said, smirking. "Proceed." Bondi tapped the binder. Her team activated the courtroom projector, revealing a timeline of internal EPA communications. "This case is not about ideology, it's about process." Over a span of 4 months, EPA officials revised scientific assessments regarding environmental impact scores without transparency, without statutory review, and in direct violation of 5 U.S.C.A. Section 553. Chen interrupted. "Counselor, agencies revise internal drafts all the time. It's called deliberation. Not every change amounts to deception." Bondi raised an eyebrow. "Unless those changes were made specifically to avoid triggering congressional oversight or public comment. I have emails, Your Honor, in which senior officials use the word dayberry when referring to dissenting data." That quieted the room. She continued, flipping slide essay emails, calendar logs, a redacted whistleblower statement. "There are references to killing the flag on environmental concerns before the memo hit public record. These aren't casual edits, these are deliberate omissions." The judge exhaled audibly, clearly unmoved. "Do you have any witness ready to testify that they were instructed to hide information?" "We will," Bondi said, "but for now, we submit these as preliminary exhibits along with the letter from the Department of Justice notifying the court that it intends to intervene." That caught Chen off guard. He sat upright. "Intervene? On what basis?" "The DOJ reviewed our sealed complaint last week. Based on the whistleblower testimony, they initiated an internal inquiry. The Office of the Inspector General joined. They're sending representatives today." He chuckled. "You expect me to believe that the Department of Justice is sending agents to this courtroom?" Bondi didn't respond. She simply glanced at her watch. And right on cue, the courtroom doors creaked open. A uniformed bailiff stepped aside as 4 sharply dressed individuals entered, 2 men and 2 women, all wearing badges bearing the DOJ insignia. They walked with precision, the click of their heels echoing. The lead agent, a tall man with silver temples and a crisp navy tie, approached the bench and handed a sealed folder to the clerk. "Your Honor," he said firmly, "Deputy Assistant Attorney General Miles Harper, Civil Division. We're here on behalf of the Department of Justice. Our office has initiated a formal investigation into allegations of administrative misconduct tied to this rule. Effective immediately, we're requesting injunctive relief and protection for involved whistleblowers." Chen was speechless. He opened the folder slowly, scanning the top page with growing discomfort. His smirk was gone, his fingers twitching slightly as he flipped through the contents. "I wasn't made aware of this," he mumbled. "Until now," Bondi said, her voice unwavering. The courtroom, now holding its collective breath, watched as Judge Chen cleared his throat and set the file down. The confidence he'd wielded earlier had melted. "Very well," he said, voice subdued. "This court will take a brief recess to review these developments." He gavelled once and rose, his face pale. As he turned, his gaze met Bondi's for the briefest second, a flicker of respect, maybe even regret. Then he disappeared behind the curtain. Pam Bondi stood motionless at the lectern, her arms crossed. She didn't gloat, didn't smirk. She didn't have to. The facts had started to speak and they were just getting started. When the court reconvened, the air had shifted. The casual tension that once crackled in the gallery was now replaced with a weighted silence, as if everyone present recognized that they were witnessing the collapse of something much larger than a routine regulatory dispute. Judge Chen entered with a measured gait, the folder from the DOJ still in his grip. He settled into his seat without the slightest trace of his earlier smugness. No offhand quips, no sighs, just silence. "This court," he began, adjusting the microphone, "has reviewed the materials provided by the Department of Justice and acknowledges receipt of their emergency motion." He turned toward the DOJ team. "Mr. Harper, please clarify the scope of your intervention." Harper rose calmly. "Yes, Your Honor." The documents Ms. Bondi submitted served as the basis for an internal probe. Our officia along with the Office of the Inspector General have found credible evidence suggesting senior agency officials intentionally altered or withheld regulatory data to prevent statutory reviews and circumvent public accountability. "That's not just unethical, it's potentially criminal." Gasps and whispers buzzed through the crowd. Harper continued, "We've already initiated interviews with agency staff and are requesting court assistance to freeze all internal communications and suspend enforcement of the challenge rule until the investigation concludes." Chen tried to maintain composure, but he was clearly cornered. His fingers drummed a rhythmless beat against his desk. "This is highly unusual." Bondi stood again. "What's unusual, Your Honor, is that it took this long. We filed warnings 6 months ago. We submitted whistleblower protection requests. No court and not even yours took them seriously. We were dismissed, mocked, and sidelined. But the evidence was always there." Chen didn't look at her. "You're requesting a nationwide injunction against the rule?" "Yes," she replied, "until the court and the Department of Justice can determine whether the regulatory process was fundamentally compromised." He sighed. "You're asking me to essentially halt the work of a federal agency on the basis of emails and—" "No," Harper interrupted gently, "on the basis of federal law and the obstruction of it." The courtroom froze again. The judge glanced over the room, reporters scribbling like mad, his own clerks with wide eyes, a DOJ agent standing like a sentry beside the gallery. He could sense his reputation slipping away, not because he made a bad ruling yet, but because he almost had, or because he'd laughed when he should have listened. "The court will grant a temporary injunction," he said slowly, his voice low and flat, "effective immediately." Bondi nodded, calm but resolute. She didn't gloat. Her role here was never performance, it was accountability. Chen turned to her again, and this time there was something new in his eyes, a remorse, or maybe fear. "Miss Bondi, this court acknowledges your diligence in this matter. The record will reflect your cooperation with federal investigators." Bondi gave a nod of acknowledgement but said nothing more. She didn't need to. Every eye in the courtroom knew what had happened. A sitting federal judge had mocked her quasi-publicly, and within hours, the DOJ had confirmed her claims had teeth sharp enough to draw blood. As the session concluded, people began filing out, but no one spoke above a whisper. The reporters raced to file their stories. Cameras waited outside. Bondi stepped through the courthouse doors into a chaos of microphones and flashbulbs. She didn't flinch. "Miss Bondi," a reporter shouted, "were you surprised the DOJ showed up in person?" "No," she said, "I was surprised it took them this long." Another reporter pressed, "Do you think Judge Chen will recuse himself?" "That's not my decision," she replied, "but I think the American people saw enough today to judge for themselves." Back inside, Chen remained at the bench long after the courtroom emptied. His clerk hovered awkwardly. "Should I file the minute order, Your Honor?" Chen nodded, barely audible. "Yes, file it." He knew, even then, that this hearing would follow him, not just for the substance of it, but for how casually he almost dismissed it. The emails, the whistleblowers, the DOJ agents said they weren't abstract warnings, they were real. They'd walked into his courtroom and put his credibility on trial. And Pam Bondi? She didn't need to win him over. She'd brought backup, and now, the entire system had to reckon with what she'd uncovered. The judge sat alone in the still courtroom, the silence pressing against him. For once, it wasn't his voice that would echo up, it was hers.